Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now for global business updates, Rotus Udiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, all our viewers out there. We begin in Asia. We just got inflation figures over in Japan this morning, and we saw it accelerate to 2.5% in May. It was 2.2% in April. The forecast was for 2.6%. Now, Japan, they have core inflation, and they've got core. So your core inflation, of course, strips out volatile food. Core takes out food and also energy. So 2.1% core. That actually decelerated from 2.4% that we saw in April. So they said it was because of electricity prices. Also, Japan is easing up on assistance to households. So you're going to see, actually expecting that will continue to tick up in June. They're going to be, taking the foot off the gas with respect to the amount of assistance they've been providing for electricity. And, this could also, with inflation climbing, it's going to feed into Governor Ueda's language about possible increase in rates, which they've been hinting at for quite a while now. We go to the UK. There's some good news, economic news coming out of the UK. They held rates, of course, but also retail sales in the UK rising 2.9% in May. There was a contraction of 1.8%. The forecast was for 1.5%, so it beat what the markets were expecting. Essentially, warmer weather, wages are rising in the UK, so people are spending. Rishi Sunak here, he'll jump on it as well, but the latest polls that came out from YouGov showing that the Tories will lose the most amount of seats since they were formed, and Labour is set to have this massive mandate that will allow them to pass any bill they want without scrutiny or opposition. According to a poll, again, we'll see how things work out. The Lib Democrats and Reform and all that, all interesting numbers. Again, the election is in less than 2 weeks, July the 4th. We go to Kenya, and the controversial finance bill passed second reading. Take a listen to Parliament, where there were some voices of opposition when the numbers were read out.
Honorable Speaker, the division on the second reading of the Finance Bill 2024 voting, the ayes 204, nays 115, abstention 0.
The results of the division on second reading of the Finance Bill 2024 is as follows. Ayes 204, nays 115, abstentions nil, so the ayes have it.
Now, if you look at the summary of this bill, Kenya is looking to raise about $2.4 billion. We've been covering the protest that kicked off since Tuesday. Of course, this is the fiscal policy 101, right? Taxing and spending. Kenya is facing a deficit, and so they have to raise as much as they can. Now, they've pulled back, but I understand there's a road maintenance levy that's going to climb by about 39% or so. 25 shillings is what they're going to be adding to what's going to be filtered into fuel prices. Kenya has fuel taxes. South Africa has fuel taxes. If you have a road accident in South Africa, whether you're a resident or not, there is insurance that will pay for it on the spot because those are built into the fuel taxes that they pay in South Africa. Kenya also, in terms of what is built into VAT and taxes for diesel, PMS, and so on, kerosene. So those are set to go up. And as a result of that, because of they took funding from the IMF in 2021. They had, they are trying to unlock more funding from the IMF. The IMF is saying, well, you know how the IMF works. If we're going to give you more money, you're going to have to, phase out subsidies, increase taxes, and plug your deficit. Now, there was, of course, talks that they would pull back on a couple of them. I think the VAT on bread, they moved back on that and they made some concessions. But the Treasury, the Kenya Treasury, did put out a warning that if they acquiesce too much, because the protesters are saying that they want the entire thing to be scrapped. They said if they do that, well, you're going to increase your finance hole, your deficit hole. So they're saying that deficit would increase to about 200 billion shillings, about $1.6 billion. The current shortfall is at 5.7% of GDP. That's the deficit to GDP. They're trying to get that down to 3.3%. So it's a balancing act that Ruto is working right now. It's really, really tough because he has to raise taxes in order to bring in revenue. There's a lot of talk about cutting spending. Similar discussions that we're having here. Here is there was the protests continue. A lot of people picked up what was trending on social media was youth chanting "We are peaceful" and holding up bullets that had been shot into the air from soldiers. To take a look. What has thrown off the government is that this was an entirely youth-led protest. I was watching, there was a young guy, 22, 23, that talked about how it was going to impact him. Gen Zs, I mean, apparently they put this thing together on social media and they just went out and there's no labor unions involved, nothing. This was just Kenyan youth saying that this bill needs to be scrapped. Again, the second reading has passed despite the protest. The third reading, they're going to go clause by clause. I think June 25th is when that's going to be taking place. But again, it just shows you the push-pull factors between a government that's trying to plug its deficit hole and the people who are saying that you're being mean, wicked, and trying to put financial burdens on us by increasing taxes. Let's get over to Nigeria. Fidelity Bank, of course, getting at the NGX yesterday, basically coming forward with their 127 billion naira capital raise. That's going to be, of course, a mix of, a public offer and a rights issue. A rights issue is an offer of shares to existing shareholders at a discount. A public offer is an offer of shares to the market, to the wider public. 127 billion, first out the gates since the CBN put up those recapitalization thresholds. It was very interesting looking at Fidelity Bank's numbers. They were going over their milestones, the acquisition of Union Bank, essentially, the stock is up about 21.9% so far this month. A number of milestones are discussed. So essentially, they've come forward. The bank wants to make sure that they're first out the gate in terms of raising this money, and they're moving forward in terms of meeting those thresholds from the CBN. We round off with the NNPC and Total Energies essentially signing off on a FID, which is a final investment decision on the Ubeta field. This field essentially is in Northwest River State. Ubeta Field Division Project is essentially a gas field, and it is essentially meant for Nigeria to be able to build on its gas reserves. So we'll take a look at a quote here from a couple individuals. First off, from Mike Sangster, excuse me. He says Ubeta is the latest in a series of projects developed by Total Energies in Nigeria, most recently Ikike and Akpo West. I'm pleased that we can launch this new gas project, which has been made possible by the government's recent initiatives for non-associated gas development. Also, Mele Kyari, of course, Group CEO, NNPCL, him saying at NNPCL and its subsidiaries continue to reposition operations in line with the Petroleum Industry Act, the PIA, and the new presidential directives to strengthen it. Projects like this will ensure a steady supply of gas for the domestic market, as well as the NLNG Train 7, whilst driving economic activities across various sectors during and after its completion. That is our updates for today.
All right, Rotus, real quickly, we have to juxtapose two things, Kenya and Nigeria. are pretty much trying to block your fiscal deficit. When you look at the loopholes in Kenya, exactly what is happening in Nigeria. For us, we have taken more debts. That's why you see the DMO is saying that our debt has increased to 121 trillion from a 7 trillion. What it means is that in 1 year, President Tinubu has borrowed close to half of what Buhari borrowed in 8 years. That's what it means, pure and simple. But the youths are now standing up because of the impact on them. And when you look...
Right? Wait.
Wait.
That's total debts now. They're talking about total debts.
Yes.
So
when this Rotus, when this administration came in, debt was 87 trillion. Abinobi, so? Is it not so? Today, debt is 121 trillion.
So
minus 87 from 121 trillion. Is that not close to half of the 87 trillion mark before?
I thought you said that.
That's it now.
Okay, I thought you meant the entire. Okay, I got you.
So that's just what we're saying, yeah.
Okay, Rotus.
So that's what is also happening in Kenya and the fiscal deficit challenge. But the youth are also standing up. And one thing the youth are also saying, Rotus, is the fact that those lawmakers that voted in favor of that finance bill, they will not be re-elected. That's the way youth power works.
Rotus, a number of important points. You raised a point about inflation. I think it's important to comment on the fact that China, the People's Bank of China, decided to hold interest rates, not call inflation in this regard. The LPR, 1 year, they are holding it at 3.5%. 5-year LPR is being held at 3.95%. That was the decision taken by the Central Bank of China yesterday. And the whole idea is that, look, they are doing reflation, moderate reflation. It seems to be a good idea, but there's still a lot. China is facing a lot of internal and external constraints, including a weakening national currency, weakening demand for their products and all of that. So that's a big story about China. NVIDIA, we talked about NVIDIA, I think on Tuesday. NVIDIA became the most valuable company, overtaking Microsoft and Apple. Well, as of this morning, Microsoft has also overtaken NVIDIA. Even if NVIDIA, in terms of the stock market, has a bigger, share value, than many countries in Europe, Germany, UK, and France included. I don't want to talk about Nigeria because we don't fit into that picture. So what we have is a three-way horse trading, three-horse war between NVIDIA, Microsoft, and Apple in that particular market. Bank of England has held interest rates steady at 5.25%. Now, the gain that we talked about, I think, yesterday, was made possible by reduction in energy prices. But there are other issues with wages, with the property market, mortgage, as they call it. But the issue is that the Bank of England is taking a steady but gradual approach. The latest time that we can expect the Bank of England to, look at interest rates will probably be about August. And I think being cautious is the standard even established by the U.S. Federal Reserve. Well, thank you very much, Rotus. Thank you very much indeed.